going to happen is we're going to take a quiz on next Tuesday. You're going to have to solve by graphing and then solve algebraically. There's two ways to do it algebraically. The method we've just been working on, the substitution, and now this next one, elimination. And when you think of the word elimination, you think of getting rid of something, right? So we're eliminating something. So it says, are these two equations true? Is 6 plus 5, 11?
Yes.
Yes. And is 10 minus 3 equal to 7?
Yes.
Yeah. So it says, what happens if we would have added these two things together? That's what we were taking a look at. So if I would add them together, do you agree that we would be looking at adding these together? And so I really just need you to do this bottom line down here, and I'll highlight it for you. If I add these two together, I get 16, right? If I add 5 plus negative 3, I get 2. And 11 plus 7 is 18. And isn't 16 plus 2 still equal to 18?
Yes.
Yeah. So if I added those vertically, right, I get that same answer. So here's the deal. Anytime you have two true statements, you will always get another true statement if you add them. Please put that in your notes. That we added these, so you should have had this one, when we added them going vertically. Because we know going across they were true. When we add them vertically, it'll also give us a true statement. Okay? So this is going to lead us in. It says, okay, we're going to solve by adding these two equations together. So what is x plus x?
X.
2x. What is negative y plus y?
1.
Negative 1 plus 1 is 0. Could I put 0y? Yeah, but it's just 0, right? And adding 4 plus 5 gives me 9. So I want to simplify this. Instead of writing it as 2x plus 0, we are just going to write 2x equals 9. To solve this problem, I'm going to divide both sides by 2. Could I end up with a fraction? Sure. 9 over 2, I could leave it that way, but that is 4.5, 4.5. So when I am solving for my solution for x, x is going to be equal to, and again, 4.5 something. So usually we write it as 4.5 instead of like one of those fractions or decimals. So when I think about my problem that we were solving yesterday, this is my x, right? And my y, and we just found x. This was much quicker, right? We got to finish the problem. So some of you, when you get yours back today, what you did is that every single one you solved for x, but you never solved for the y. So which equation do we want to use? And here it doesn't really matter if you use the first one or the second one because one of the variables isn't there. But if we look at it, I'm going to go with that second one because the x and y are both positive. Would it matter if I chose the other one? No. If I wanted to choose x minus y equal 4, I could look at that one. So what am I replacing x with? 4.5, right? So I'm going to plug in 4.5 plus y equals 5. If I was doing it in this other problem, if I would have used the first equation, I would have had 4.5 minus y equals 4. Well, to solve this, we're going to do what? Subtract 4.5 from 5. 4.5 minus 5 gives us 0.5. Oh, what if I was doing it on this side, if I am taking a look, and we get subtracting 4.5. What's 4 minus 4.5? That would have been a negative 0.5. Oh, we got a positive here. What is the y? It's negative 1y equals this. So if you can always choose the one where the y is positive, a lot of you will make less mistakes. Because some of you will tell me the answer is negative 0.5. But you really should be dividing both sides by negative 1. And my answer here is 4.5. 0.5. So, the key thing with elimination, I want you to notice, is that in front of your y, what number is in front of y? They both have a 1. But I also want you to notice, what do we notice about the signs? Like, one is negative and one is positive. And so if the signs are opposite and the number is the same, that variable will always get eliminated. So that is going to be really helpful when we do our homework questions, okay? So turn to the next page as you are taking a look. It gives us this problem. 2x plus 3y equals 4. 5x plus 3y equals negative 8. I notice that my y's, so please put it like an arrow above the y's. I notice the y's have the same number in front of them, but the sign is not opposite. Write this arrow. We are going to change, because it says 2x, this whole thing's subtracting. I want you to put in front of the 5x, make it a negative 5x. Make the y, because remember subtraction is the same as adding the opposite. And so everything is going to change to the opposite sign. So it was negative 8, it's now positive, right? Everything changes to the opposite. Please add those together. So on your paper, you're adding 2 plus negative 5. 2 plus negative 5 gives us negative 3x. 0y. 4 plus 8 gives us 12. The y's eliminated because the number in front of y was the same and the signs are opposite. Which means I have negative 3x equals 12. To solve the problem, what do I need to do as I am looking at this problem to solve, Xander? Negative 3x equals 12. What do I have to do to solve? You have to divide both sides by? No? 5. Negative 3. Make sure you're writing this. Got to put all those steps. I want to start from the beginning. So I get 12 divided by negative 3. I divided both sides. I like usually when you guys are showing me yours and you do that on this side we had this negative 3 and you divided by negative 3. But as we do that, right, that gives me 1x. And if I am simplifying that, Alea, what am I looking at? X equals? Okay, so we're taking 12 and divide it by negative 3 should be negative 4 when I get that answer. My hint is, a lot of times you notice I have the answer down here, but I would get in the habit of writing your homework, put it right next to the problem, the x and y, so that's where you substitute in. So Josh, we are going to look at those equations, and we're going to go back to our original one, and I would like everyone to write the first equation. 2x plus, we're on the next page. Okay, fill yours in. So 2x plus 3y equals 4. Josh, which variable did we know?
X.
We know x. So we are going to put 2 times what?
2 times negative 4.
Keep the rest of the equation the same, plus 3y equals 4. So if I am simplifying, Maddox, what do I end up with as I simplify?
Negative 8 plus 3y equals 4.
Yes. I have to get the negative 8 or the 3y by itself. To do that, Jordan, I'm going to do what?
Add 8 to the other side.
Add 8 on both sides. When I add 8, I'm left with 3y is equal to 12. I need to solve for y. What am I going to do on them? Divide both sides. This time the y is positive in front. It's 3. So I'm going to have my solution y equals 4. So we had negative 4. So for our x, we have negative 4. And our y, we have positive 4. And again, I don't care where you write your answer, but make sure that if I could plug this in, so when you take the quiz, there should be, you're going to have 6 questions. There should be no problem that you've checked your answer. Now, a lot of you today, you're going to see that you're doing this joke sheet, but if I'm checking my answer, please write up here, check. And I'm going to go to this equation. So I'm going to go to the original equation, right? So I want to go back to where it was originally. It was positive 5x. So please write the equation 5x plus 3y equals negative 8. As I'm writing that, live, what was our x value that I'm replacing? So I'm going to take 5 times negative 4, plus, Brad, my y value was 4, so I'm going to take 3 times 4. So if I put negative 20 plus 12, does it equal negative 8? Yeah, it checks. So this answer has to work in both equations if it is a solution. If I was graphing this, this would have been a point of intersection, and the point of intersection would have been going over 4 and up 4 if I would have graphed those two lines. Okay? So we got 2 more practices that we are doing. So please make sure as you take a look at these last 2 as we are looking at these. Is there one variable that has the same number in front and the signs opposite in this first equation? The x's, right? So we've got to make sure they're lined up. So today that's going to be a key thing. If I add negative x, so I'm just going to add these together right as they're written. Negative x plus positive x, that is 0x, or you could put 0. Adding 4y plus 2y gives us 6y. 7 plus 5 gives us 12. Someone said, well, at this point, can I just put 6y equals 12? Yes. We're getting our solution. We're going to divide both sides by 6. Y is equal to 2. Don't put it as the first one. Remember, that's your y. That's your second one back here. So now we have to choose an equation. Jared, you're going to help us choose which equation would you like, first or second?
Second.
Second. I like it too because there's positives in that second one. So I'm going to write down x plus 2y equals 8. And Isabel, we going to replace the y with 2. So tell me what to write.
Is it 5? Yeah, it equals 5.
Yeah, 5. Good eye. All right, Isabel, x plus
2
times 2.
equals 5.
You got it. So I have x plus 4 equals 5. What does x have to be? 1. I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides, but could you tell me how? X is 1 at this point. You're up to here, and x equals 1. Do you have to show subtraction of 4 on both sides? Some of you should. Not all of you need to. And we are looking at that solution then, so we should have our ordered pair as being 1, 2 as we look at that. Okay? We're going to look at this next problem, and here's where some of you will make a mistake. So which variable looks like they have the same number in front, the x or y? Brady?
3y.
The y's. But they're both negative. If I add 2 negatives together, that gives me negative 6. So I have to multiply one of my equations. I have to take everything times negative 1. What does that do? That makes this a negative 5x. That makes this a plus 3y. That makes it a negative 7. Could I have multiplied the first equation? Yes. Please make sure you're writing this down. Some of you haven't written this with all these negatives. Okay? So when we take a look at this, 2x minus 5x gives us a negative 3x. 3y plus 3y, I don't even have to write plus 0, right? If you want to put in plus 0, you could, but you wouldn't have to write that. You could just write negative 3x equals
3.
Careful. Negative 3. We're going to divide. Isn't this much easier than the substitution?
Yes.
No.
Yeah. Hopefully so once you start practicing it on your own. Some of you aren't really partaking much in doing the notes. You're kind of just sitting there. But looking at x equals 1, right? Does it matter which equation I go to? No, they both. So if I go to the first equation, 2x minus 3y equals 4. I'm going to have 2 times 1. 2 times 1 is 2. Minus 3y equals 4. If I'm going to continue solving that, my next step, Ayad, would be to do what to get y by itself? Subtract what? I want to get negative 3y all by itself here.
2 times 2 is
subtract 2 from 4 and subtract 2 from 2. So at this point I have negative 3y equals 2. Morgan, what am I going to do to solve? 5 by negative 3, right? I'm going to have a fractional answer. This is not wrong. When you take a look at this one, our answer comes out to be 1 comma negative 2/3. Doesn't matter if the negative is in the denominator, in the numerator, or out in front. It does not. My answer is going to be a fraction. Someone said, can I put negative 0.62? You could put negative 0.6. Do the rewrite. We got to get all the x's, all the y's equal the number. So in this case, I already kind of have a number back here. That's my equal 12. I got to move this 8x, and I can't just put it to the other side and make it negative. I need to add 8x, and I'm not adding 8x with the negative 2y because those are not like terms. So I'm going to write this as 8x minus 2y equals 12. At this point, I'm looking at the problem, and I notice that in front of the y's, I have the exact same number. They both have a 2. One's positive, one's negative. If I add these together, 8 plus 3 gives us 11x. This is going to be 0, right? They cancel out. 10 plus 12 gives me 21. 2. I'm going to divide. This is pretty nice. Both sides by 11. X is equal to 2. Now, since I'm solving for y, and I notice in the second equation I have negative 2y, I'm going to go to the second equation instead of the first. I look at that second equation and I want to write it down exactly. Negative 2y equals negative 8x plus 12. So you're always going to your original. Don't go to the one that you did a rewrite on. Because sometimes some of you will make like a really simple mistake on the rewrite. So in this case, I'm going to put negative 2. Y. Guys, and I'm going to put negative 8 times what? What is my x value? 2 plus 12. I have negative 16 plus 12. If I'm adding negative 16 and 12, then I'm going to end up with negative 4. So I get negative 4. I got to divide both sides, Grady, by negative 2, not the y. Don't divide by the variable. You can always keep that variable. So my answer for y is also 2. Okay? So again, when I'm looking at my problem, some of you will leave your answers like this. You need to get in the habit of writing them as an ordered pair. When I hand back that homework, you'll kind of see that we are looking at. So, is it written in the right form? No. Second one is, first one is not. How do I get rid of negative 2y on this side if I'm looking at that problem? Amber, I'm going to do what? Add 2y. Now when I add 2y to this side, I'm going to keep the x's, so I'm going to keep 4x plus 2y equals negative 16. Do I have to change anything in the second one? No. Negative 4x. Oh, do I want to switch the order around? Yes. Yes. So when I write that one, right, I'm going to put positive 4x first. So be careful that you are looking and writing the same variable. So 4x minus 4y equals 32. It looks like the x's are canceling, right? But as I look at that, what do I need to do to one of them as I am looking at it? What would you say here? What could I do so that the signs become opposites? Multiply by, not by 1, but by, what's going to give me the opposite? Negative. And I actually would probably do the first one, right? So but would it matter which one you do? Some of you like to do the second one, some the first one. it does not matter. I'm going to take it times -1. So please write negative 4x, negative 2y, and positive 16. Adding together. As I do that, I'm going to have what for my x's? 0. I don't have to write that. What am I going to have, Carson, for my y's? Careful. -2. And then this is minus 4y. -6. And I will have some of you tell me 2 or -2. Remember, this is the same as plus a negative. So -6y. And then we are looking at, Amy, 16 plus 32 gives us 48. We're going to be, Jonathan, dividing both sides by -6. If I'm writing this, some of you aren't writing too much, I need you to show this work on yours. Make sure you did the rewrite. As I look at y in this case should be equal to, if I am looking at it, Jonathan, what'd you end up with? -8. This is my y, right? Mark, you have to help me decide which equation to solve for x. First or second of those first two equations? Okay, second. I'd say the first might be easier because the x is by itself. So you can do either one. You want me to do second or first, Mark? I'm going to go first. So I'm going to go 4x equals -16 minus 2. This was a y, but I can replace y with -8. So I get -16. -2 times -8 gives me positive 16. And this is when I'll have people tell me there's no solution, which is not correct. 4x is equal to 0. And when I divide 0 by 4, you put it in your calculator, it gives you x equals, not undefined, but 0. So my solution is 0, -8. So, you are 9 to 12, you're going to have to rewrite. So 9, 10, 11, and 12. You got to do some rewrite, right? We got to rewrite it. So on your paper, you're going to start off. And as we are taking a look at question number 1, on your notebook paper, I want the exact problem copied down. So when you start number 1, please put number 1 at the top. It will say F7. You are going to copy. If you want to put the bracket, I need x plus y equals 5. And I need 3x minus y equals 7. Everyone should have this on their paper right now. Some of you are going to go faster than others of you as you are doing this because they just kind of start making sense. You're like, oh, this is great. It's making sense. So at this point, next thing I'm going to do is back here, I'm going to put my answer. It's an xy. What it tells you on here is that you are going to solve the problem. And when you solve it using elimination, you're going to find one of these points for your answer. And wherever that point happens to be, and we'll do number 1, then you're going to put down that letter. Okay? So I start adding in number 1. And I'm adding those together. And as I do that, Cameron, how many x's? 4, because the y's are going to eliminate. So I have 4x. Someone said, can I just cross that off? It's going to be 0 for sure. Equals, Cameron? So 7 plus 5 if we're adding, we got 12. We're almost done, right? So this is why I said for some of you, you like this better than substitution. So, yes?
Quick question. How did you get a plus sign next to these?
So we are using addition method for all of these unless I have to multiply like 1 by a negative. So the method is called elimination or addition. So anytime we are solving any of these problems, once I notice in front of the variable, same number, opposite signs, I can add them together instead of doing substitution. So it's just another way of, elimination is also called the addition method of solving. So if I notice these are the same numbers, both ones, one's positive, one's negative, we just get to add them together and we're almost done. So we're almost done with this one. We are gonna finish by dividing both sides by 4. And x is equal to 3. Don't stop there. This is where when I hand back this paper, a lot of people stop. So Tyler, do you want to go to the first equation or the second equation to solve for y? Because it doesn't matter, we got to pick one. Okay? So if we go to the first equation, we are going to write down, the first equation was x plus y equals 5. Now what I'm going to do, Tyler, is replace x with, what was x equal to? 3 plus y equals 5. And if I am solving that, most of you in your head could probably tell me without doing the subtraction. 3 plus y equals 5. Or you could subtract both sides and y equals 2. So I am looking for the ordered pair 3, 2 on the answers. So I go over to 3 and 2. Not 2, 3, right? 3, 2, and I find B. So for number 1, every place, I think sometimes they have some of them repeat. I'm going to put the letter B. Okay? So I can do your homework tonight.